Happy Monday, everybody. We hope you've had a good start to your week. Kia ora, good evening, bonsoir, mngiriwe, magadini, akwaba. I am so super excited about this podcast show tonight as I have my siblings as guests to help us understand about the concept that I've been telling you about called decolonization through spirituality. But I'm going to give us a little bit of a moment for our siblings and our guests to introduce themselves.
Kia ora, I'm Janina. I'm a performance artist and vocalist. I also do tarot and work with my ancestors. And yeah, I did a performance show called Nyame Dua, which was based on the body and our connection to Earth. And yeah, also the trauma that Earth goes through and the trauma that our bodies go through, and developing a relationship between Earth and ourselves as one. So yeah.
Awesome.
Kia ora, moroi, and hello. My name is Maka. I am coming to you in this moment as a nyanduri, which loosely translates to a storyteller or someone who uses words creatively. I'm also a herbalist. I love to play with plants. That's my arena of play. Plants.
Yes, but also you've forgotten that you're quite these are quite amazing young African leaders in our community anyway. Some of us look up to them. And she also forgot to mention that she's an event manager. And
I guess that comes under storyteller or nyanduri, you know.
Some people might not get it.
Okay.
Because, you know, that is about Africa, dance and vibe and joy. So she's got an event that she hosts on a bi-monthly.
It's called Afro Day. So I guess in the realm of storytelling, I would define it as there's a thinker and a beautiful individual called Deepa Aya, and they identify a storyteller as someone who cultivates stories of their communities through music, art, and different forms. So I would say that Afro Days was birthed from that storytelling tradition, but it's in addition to work that I've done over the last 8 years using those different mediums to tell the story of Africa and her different cultures, and I guess to reimagine ourselves as third culture kids in New Zealand. So yes, I also do look after Afro Days and whatever else she decides to tell you today. Putting on my business out in the streets.
It's just for us to understand, you know, the privilege of having you on our show and our podcast. We are very honored, and we can't wait to actually be able to dig deeper from where we come from. By the way, Janina is from Ghana, and Makanaka is from Zimbabwe, and I'm from the sexy country called Burundi. Okay, welcome to the African Mirror podcast show. And how this concept came about, we just realized that we are all from Africa, the motherland, and we've got quite a vast knowledge of how our ancestors used to carry themselves, their lifestyles. But then we come here and we've got into this new or many other cultures, and we get to forget where we come from. And then we were like, oh, how about we just share what we know? How about we talk about, you know, these articles that we've been learning, our beliefs about how to actually go back to our roots, which brings me to the name of this concept. So when we were chatting together and we were like, yeah, we can talk about this and we can talk about that. And then I was like, yeah, because, you know, I feel like we can decolonize ourselves through spirituality. And my sis Makanaka was like, sis, stop right there. Because this word in itself, if we are committed to changing narrative and then bringing in positivity, this word is already carrying a little bit of a negative weight to it. And please, can you tell us a little bit why you inspired us to be able to change even the name in terms of getting into this vast knowledge that we will be sharing with our people out there, our audience out there? What did you say we should just change it back to?
So my suggestion was to, adapt the name to remembering and returning. And that's because I feel like we're now in a space where for starters, the words decolonizing, like many words is being used like a buzzword. It's like, how do you decolonize your diet? You know what I mean? It's not a verb. It's more or less of like an action and a way of thinking. And so when we talk about decolonization, we talk about returning back to, you know, your languages, decentering the colonial, in our case, decentering, you know, and for Zimbabwe's case, that British, white, European narrative. And at the same time, it's like, after decolonization, you need to come to a point where you stop centering colonialization. You need to stop. You need to come to a point where you're not centering or starting our stories off with when the colonizers came to our land. Right. Because as far as I see, you know, my story doesn't begin when they came to our lands. You know, prior to them coming, we had whole histories, whole ways of lives. And so when we return and we remember, we're going back to before colonialization.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, like basically what I'm understanding right now is the fact that if we're still going through using this narrative already, these words already, we are still not even coming out of it. We're still using the same narrative that was given to us, or maybe that was imposed on us. So moving forward, we are going to be referring to this topic, which we will be talking about in more episodes later, and we're going to be remembering and returning back through spirituality.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm just going to start with just asking Janina, what is spirituality? What does that mean to you? Because you've shared a little bit about how you were involved with a project last year.
Yeah, the beginning of last year.
Yeah, can you tell us a little more about it, and then also explain to us what spirituality means to you?
So maybe I'll start with what spirituality means to me. I guess for me, spirituality is just like your connection to the forces of nature, and I guess from being from various countries in Africa, or being from different indigenous traditions or cultures, forces of nature get turned into the orishas or the gods, or in Māori, Aotearoa. So yeah, I think for spirituality for me, it's just connecting to nature and connecting to the forces that be outside of like religion. And I think also for me, spirituality is a lifestyle, and it's not really... it's just every day. It's waking up and breathing and connecting like this. Like this for me is super spiritual. So it doesn't really need to be what is perceived in like social media. It's not doing tarot. It's not. It's literally just living and breathing and being in touch with your inner being and your community, and and healing and living from your core and your center, I think, for me. And so I went through a massive spiritual journey, I would say, for the last few years, and something that I really wanted to do was to create a birthing for myself, and my natural way of doing that is through performance art and poetry and music. So I crafted, or I produced this show called Nyame Dua, which means Nipa, it's in tree in my language. Nipa means person and Dra means tree. But if you put those two words together, Nyame Dua means the body. It's the most common word for body. Okay. And so for me, I was connecting like those two things to myself and to everyone else, and looking at the state of the earth and looking at the state of what's going on, and how things can be so fucked up or traumatic, but things can also be so beautiful through all the chaos and the birthing, and I wanted for that to be something that was witnessed. I feel like I had gone through a lot of trauma being non-binary, being black, being femme, and I thought that I wanted to rename myself and reclaim my power, and it was a really beautiful thing to be a part of. Maka was a part of it as well, and it was kind of like almost something that we've spoken about, like a self-initiation, I felt.
Right.
So it was beautiful.
Are you still running them?
I am, I guess, because that was like an activation or performance art. I would love to do some more in the future, but it's also up to spirit, so we'll see how we flow. Yeah.
Can I help to like...
Yeah. Like, I don't know, maybe.
Just now, really.
Make a way for me. What does that mean to you, Maka? Like spirituality in your honor, beautiful understanding of life, and from where you come from. You know, does spirituality hold a special place in your presence and in your everyday life?
Thank you. I really echo what Janina said about spirituality being a lifestyle and a way of life. So I don't disconnect my spirit to anything and everything that I do. Yeah. So it's about relationships. In Shona, we have a concept of hunu, where it's almost similar to the Maori concept of whanaungatanga and like mana and like really, really respecting and honoring that. So when we speak about hunu, it's like a spiral of connection between you, your family, your community, the ancestors, God, and the earth.
Yes.
And so you're in a holistic relationship.
Absolutely.
And there's no hierarchy or anything. You all just feed each other. And so when I think about my spirituality, I think about it as like the feeding and the nourishment that happens in everything that I do. And I think over the last couple of years, I've been on a journey, but it's only in the last, I would say, close to a year now where I've really become more intentional about seeing every single interaction, things that I consume, people that I'm around, all of that as an extension of spirit. Yeah. You know, because essentially, you know, we are spirit.
We are.
You know, we're fully spirits having this humanly, bodily experience.
Like a clothes, like you know, put on clothes.
Yeah, you know, this is a skin cloth, you know.
That's exactly what I mean.
So to disassociate spirituality or spirit and see it as a separate thing that you do on one day of the week.
Yes. It's a celebration of every day.
It's a celebration of every day. And like you were saying before, you know, when you wake up in the morning, it's, you know, giving thanks for the gift of life. It's making sure you've said your prayers. It's making sure when you see people, you know, you exchange a good word, a good vibe. And that's not to mistake it with like this toxic positivity where it's like, you know, love and light. It's about a particular way of holding yourself with boundaries. It's about truth. It's about honesty. It's about all of those things that we take away when we're just loving and lighting our way around life.
Absolutely. It's actually like a lifestyle of keeping yourself in check, also to bring your happiness and your joy within yourself, which is, you know, like reflecting back to the name of the show called The African Mirror. So it's almost like looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, right, did I do right? Did I do wrong? So I also, like in Burundi, we've got this concept called ubuntu. You know, which comes from Bantu ubuntu, which means ubuntu, how can I explain it in English? It's the mannerism of carrying yourself. You know, it's like, you know, like if you think of the next person sitting next to you, you should think of them as you think of yourself. And this is about encouraging people to rely on each other, to be there for one another. You know, like going back even like this Ubuntu concept is like, if I am at home and I am cooking and I realize that I don't have salt, I can send my child to the neighbor and actually ask them to give you some salt. It's like simple things like that, but it's about bonding as well. It's about being able to reflect on yourself. And it's true when you mentioned that, you know, it's about when you wake up in the morning, do your prayers. And personally, with my spirituality, when I wake up in the morning, you know, you wake up in the morning and you know, something is not right. I'm like, I feel anxious, and sometimes you don't even know what you are anxious about. I make it a thing for me to stay in bed and go over and try to actually search, where is that bad feeling coming from? Why am I feeling like this? And I managed to actually be able to get out. I'm like, yes, happy Monday, people. Happy Tuesday, people. But that's because I had worked on it before I can get out of bed, before I can go outside, because there's also this English saying that goes, you can't love someone else if you do not love yourself. You cannot care for yourself if you do not care for someone else. So what are the like steps for you in terms of like, you know, spirituality and the way you understand it? What are the steps that you actually do on a daily basis to actually make sure that you keep yourself in check?
I think recently something that I do, I think, well, there's that you have that connection to your body, I guess, because we're in these vessels, and I think it's important to continuously ground and connect your spirit to your body as well. And so simple things I do throughout the day is genuinely just making sure that I'm eating and drinking water and like those things, looking after myself. And then aside from that, I'm really into divination. So like I said, I do tarot and other things as well, so and spell work. And so that's something that I do, like light a candle, do a reading for myself. It could literally be anything. It's
but you're
the beauty
always
of it.
posting up things about like rivers and about like trees. So you have a moment sometimes in your busy schedule to be like, okay, everything be on hold. I'm just gonna go and communicate with the waters and
yes, I love nature, and I love going out and sitting by a tree and just meditating as well is something that's super powerful. Even just 10-15 minutes of just stillness or journaling as well, getting your feelings out and connecting with the earth is definitely
when you say connecting with the earth, is it exactly because I'm kind of like I do know like some other African cultures where they be like they will sit under the trees and they will sing and they will hear something back. Is that something that you go through when you are just like
That is something actually, like I do feel like I can connect with the energy of nature around me, or whatever visions or words that come to my mind or whatever it may be. That's something that I'll like flow with or take with my intuition if it's like a positive thing, or even if it's a negative thing, searching as to what that is or what that means to me or how it resonates to me as well. Connect with anything, tree, a bird, listen to a bird sing and I'm like, what does that mean?
Are you trying to talk to me?
I'm like, that's for me.
What about you, Maka? Do you have any I know she does because she's very strong on self-care. So, what are, if you were to give us like a little tips of how you actually keep yourself in check on a daily basis, things that reflects your spirituality, your lifestyle, like share with us, because some of us might be just starting up, we want to get to know about what that is all about. Can you share us with what you do?
I definitely reflect to both what you're saying about the earth and being the body. So I believe in, intentional touch and really, really looking after, this earth that we have. Because if we think about it, I have this really beautiful meditation that I listen to, and it's called the 4 elements body scan, and they say the elements outside are the elements within. So the earth, the ground, that's your body, right? The waters that flow in the rivers and the sea, that's the tears and your blood that flow through your body.
Right.
The fire that keeps things burning outside, that's your passion inside you, that's all your feelings and emotions and everything else. And then the air outside is your breath. So if you think about that, I bring all of that when I look after myself, I tend to my body. In terms of my spirituality and my grounding, I always come back to the thing of coming back to the center. And I try to live by 3 different elements of principles. So the first one would be the 4 agreements. That's things like, I will do my best. I will be impeccable with my word. I will not take things personally. I always forget the 4th one, but it's there. You can find it on the internet.
Giving you some homework.
We can't give you everything. You have to go and do your Googles. And then the second...
No, you didn't.
And then I guess the second ones would be the Nguzo Saba. So these are 7 principles that are formulated that you meditate through the end of the year when you're coming into Kwanzaa. And that's things like umoja, unity, cooperative economics, group thinking, the ability to name yourself through self-determination and knowledge of self, faith, which is imani, and that's faith in your own ability through God and the ancestors, but also faith in your community that, we're all here to do something, and so we're all going to achieve it together and towards that purpose. And I guess the last set of principles would be the laws of Ma'at, and the 10 commandments are based off the laws of Ma'at. I think there's about 42. And Ma'at is all about balance, truth, and justice, and living according to that. It's this thing about when you come to the end of your life and you're measured by a feather, how heavy is the feather going to be? So it's like, trying to walk around with the light heart, and which can be so hard because motherfuckers will try you. People will try you, and you're like, oh my God, you're like, God, do you see it's them and not me? But it's those principles. And I guess when I wake up in the morning, I do my best to, get on my mat. I'm currently practicing comedic yoga, which is an African form of yoga. And my goodness, the things it just does to your body. We've been taught to disconnect from our feelings and from our body and all of that. So that's a good way to really bring it back. Try do some meditation, about 10 minutes, whether it's guided or it's just listening to water sounds. I do my prayers, over my head, over my life. And I love reading the book of Psalms. So I read a verse out loud from the book of Psalms when I can. And I guess that's how I would practice my spirituality every day. And then before you go to bed, sometimes, you try to journal, all of those things. Once a week, I work a lot with plants. So I mentioned plants at the beginning because I feel like, those are our oldest teachers. Sitting under a tree, listening to the white owl of a plant, because all of those things, just like us, they've got their own spirits. In the same way that we have our own messages and purpose, these different plants have them, and each single plant and everything in nature will have its own spirit that can teach you. So I love doing my herbal steams. I love using my oils as not only to feel good, but also as a way of protection and reminding myself that, this is home.
Yeah, I belong here.
Yeah, I belong here. If nowhere else, here's where we can try and find that grounding. But yeah, I guess that's how I would say I practice my spirituality.
Well, I'm kind of bouncing off what you said, and I feel like for me the connecting point is about listening, because I feel like the aspect of spirituality for me that is important is to listen. And even when I mentioned that if I wake up in the morning and I kind of feel a little bit anxious, that's not when I'm comparing and bringing this aspect. It's not hearing. Listening for me goes beyond healing if you want to connect it with spirituality, because it's even feeling something is actually listening to what is coming from above. It's listening to your ancestors, it's listening to God, to gods, and so reading through the lines as well. So I agree with you, going into the nature. I agree with you, listening to the sounds of water when you want to relax. It's a way also of listening, being able to be discerning, and it's actually quite a hard thing to do. Listening is a really hard thing to do, because when you listen to a point where you can look at yourself in the mirror and reflect and change accordingly, it takes some practices, it takes some exercising to do, Yeah, so thank you so very much. For someone who is out there, for instance, listening to us and it's what are you talking about, when it comes to spirituality? What is something that we can share with them from you personally? Because I know that sometimes what I'm trying to say as well, connecting it to listening, is that I'm going through my spiritual journey, and sometimes, believing and listening to the universe, sometimes the universe tells me, my girl, stop this. Don't go that way. But I'm okay, I hear I should not do that, but I'm gonna push it. And then 2-3 times, boom, and then I'm ooh, my goodness, what am I supposed to do? Breaking down. But I feel like the universe just gives me one hint, and then the second one and the third one, and I'm not listening, and then it's gonna force me to actually open your eyes. I've been trying to tell you this and this and this and this. Did you have something like that to start with when you were I'm gonna embrace my. Did you have something like that? I'm I'm just trying to how that spiritual that breakdown or trauma that introduced you to, but not introduce you, but actually puts you on a halt, I have to embrace my spirituality right now because this is what's happening.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I don't know. I feel like I spent a few good years running away from anything spiritual, and that was when I was Christian for a long time, and I came out of the church just to explore my spirituality on my own, and to gain my own identity in that realm. And so I fully ran away for a few good years, and you guys saw me running away.
We were right behind you, hey.
Nadine would be yelling at me when are you gonna do this? When are you gonna do that? And I'd be running the other way. But yeah, I think I was definitely open to different things and ideas of and experiences. I wasn't like closed off, even though I did run away in a sense. I think that I was like, whatever creator, source,
Not
God.
ready. Not ready. No, now.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not ready, but if you want to show yourself and you're as strong and as great as I'm being told, then you'll find me and I'll find you eventually. And I did in my own way.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was just about having an open heart to different experiences and to different people and getting to know different people and testing things. Sometimes things are just like trial and error. You have to keep doing something in order for you to figure out like what you actually want and what actually works for you. And that's, I guess, just like the life experience. And just intuition, I guess, getting to know your intuition. And I think for me doing that was just like, okay, give me a sign. Like, I want this. Is this a yes or a no? And then
you were asking for a sign, but like the universe has giving you
giving me
signs.
signs, Nadine.
And you were like,
Which is a great example of ignoring the signs as well. So you do have to be open and be able to like receive and then sit with your ego as well and your fears, because
exactly,
especially with new things when it comes to spirituality, especially being Black or African, and the trauma that comes from like leaving certain concepts of spirituality and coming into new ones that are redefined for ourselves.
Yes.
New things.
Yeah.
Old, but also very old things as well. So I don't know, it's a journey.
It is a journey, and it must have been a scary thing, because it was a scary thing for me to open up to
everything.
And I believe as well, like when you're going through that breakthrough, like I said, like the universe comes and shows you these signs and bring you this type of angel, and you're like, no, I want the one that got wings, but there's an angel in front of you, but you're like, I want the one that is white and got wings, you know what I mean? It kind of like get you to the point where you can, I believe, find your purpose.
Yeah, you kind of find yourself, and I guess, make sense of it in your own way. Because I feel like we always talk about, it's about your relationship with God. Okay, then if it is, then why is there a set of rules about my conduct and how my perceived conduct is if it's a personal relationship? So I guess if it's like a personal one, you're journeying on your own, like you get to make that connection by yourself to source and plug yourself in and do it the way that makes sense to you as an individual.
We've been honored to have our guest in the studio, but we're going to take a break and we'll see you next week.